Hi friends, welcome to your mat today. I'm Val, and today what I've got for you is a really nice grounding and reconnecting yin yoga flow for traveling. I personally just got off of the plane about like an hour and a half ago. I came home, I showered really quick, and first thing I want to do is just get on my mat and move my body and allow it to sink into itself for longer holds. So we'll be practicing a yin yoga class. And the purpose is to target our deeper connective tissue. So the fascia, ligaments, joints, just to give ourselves this space to settle into our body and kind of reconnect with that stability that's within. That sometimes can be shaken up when we travel. Our nervous systems can kind of just be on alert a lot when we travel as well. So, this will also be a really beautiful class to help kind of reset your nervous system and just allow you to find this sense of calm and peace through the practice of yoga. So we'll be focusing today's class on some of the areas that tend to get a little bit tighter when we travel. So if we're sitting a lot, or if we're driving a lot, or if we're just kind of on the go a lot, we tend to hold a lot of tension in our hips, our low back, and even into our shoulders. So we'll be focusing on those three main areas for today's class. You will need a few props for today's class. You'll need two blocks. I'm just sitting on one right now. You'll need two blocks, a blanket, and a bolster. And if you don't have a bolster, you can just get a nice thick pillow or a couch cushion or anything of that nature. I think one of the most important things to stay reminded of throughout travel is that wherever you go, wherever you travel, anywhere in the world, you always have the stability of the earth beneath you. And that in itself is so grounding. As we move through today's class, if any of these postures don't resonate with you and don't settle in your body, I encourage you to just allow yourself to stay reminded of the support of the earth beneath you throughout this class if you feel like you get a bit ungrounded. But I hope that doesn't happen because today's class is guided to reconnect and ground you to that inner stability. So let's get started. It is my passion to journey towards the light within. This light within us, we all have a unique light, and it always brings us home to ourselves. So, if that is something that connects with you and that resonates with you, and if you are someone who wants to find more of that connection to the light within through the practices of yoga, mindfulness, and meditation, then be sure to subscribe to this channel, like this video, and hit the notification button so you don't miss out on any future videos like this one. Together, we'll journey towards the light within and create more vibrancy and more harmony and more connection to the self, through the self, for the self. All right, friends. So for our first posture, we are going to need both blocks and possibly a blanket if you like that extra support for your head and neck, especially if you're feeling a little extra tense in the shoulders. You can set your blanket up at the back of the mat. Just put your bolster off to the side and come to find a position where you're lying down on your back. Both blocks will be on either sides. As you come to your back and lie down, let the soles of the feet come to connect as the outer edges of the feet are in connection with the earth. So it's almost like the soles of the feet are kissing. And if right away, as you come to this posture, it's a lot for the inner groins, if there's a lot of tension in the low back, you can bring your blocks right underneath the knees. Now there's 3 settings with the block. So if your knees are really high, that's totally fine. Just bring your block to a higher setting and bring it in to support your knees, or you can bring it onto a lower setting or any setting that works best for you. And if you're more on the flexible side, that's fine. If you don't need blocks and you want to skip them, you can do that as well. What's really important as we practice a yin yoga class is that I'll go through the 3 principles, but we never want to go to our deepest edge immediately when we enter into a pose. when we enter into a pose in yin yoga, it's all about kind of finding that fine line of noticing some tension and some stress in the joints that we're focusing on. So right now we're focusing on the hip joints, the inner groin, maybe even into the low back slightly. And allowing the breath and the time that we're going to be holding the pose to settle you in more and more. And then as we settle into that posture, then your edge can widen and it can grow and expand. So start with your, let's say about 40%, anywhere from like 30 to 40%. And you can always start less, but you do want to feel something in yin. This is not a restorative class. So yin, we're working to create some kind of stress and tension in the body so we can let it relax and settle in, so we can create more resiliency in those connective tissues. So just find about your 40%. I'm going to skip the blocks because it feels really good for me to not have them and just get a deeper stretch. But again, you don't want to feel any pain right away. Well, actually, you never want to feel pain. But you don't want to feel like a ridiculous amount of sensation to the point where you won't be able to hold this pose for up to 5 minutes. So just kind of settle in. You can let your hands rest anywhere that feels comfortable, maybe on your physical body, perhaps on your ribs, one hand on your belly, one hand on your heart, or even the arms can come into a cactus position just to target more of the shoulders. And as you settle in, together we'll take 3 cleansing breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. So when you are ready, empty out on your next exhale completely. And then fill all the way up through the tips of the nose. Hold it at the top and sigh it out. Let it go. We'll take 2 more like that. In through the nose, nice big breath. And out through the mouth. 1 more, in through the nose. And out through the mouth. Let the lips seal shut. And work your way into a very gentle oceanic breath, or otherwise known as Ujjayi pranayama, where there's a soft restriction in the back of the throat, almost mimicking the sound of an ocean wave, or some might relate it to Darth Vader breath. But we don't want it to be very powerful. We want it to be more on the gentler side. Just enough sensation to create a very soft vibration in the back of the throat and an audible sound to bring you into focus of the breath. Let the whole body relax on every exhalation. And be curious of the sensations on every inhalation. Now we're definitely more than halfway through this pose, so just continue to be with the breath for the remainder of the pose. I'll leave more pockets of quiet and stillness, so you have that space for inner reflection and connection. So you feel the body is settling and surrendering even more. You can always take hold of that opportunity to go to your next edge. Maybe lowering the blocks a level, or if they're on the lowest level, perhaps feeling into the pose without them. Got 5 more full breaths. Begin to take a full deep breath in through the nose. An option to let it out with a gentle sigh. Allow the hands to come to the corner edges of the knees, just to help the knees up towards each other. Slowing your way to plant the feet on the ground. And then just letting the sensation of your feet land on the earth settle into the body. The inner groin just had a big stretch. So just let the body reverberate back to this neutral position. It's always so important in yin to give space for the body to recalibrate after we have that long hold within a pose. And then to find a counter pose or a rebound. So just walk your feet out as wide as your yoga mat and take very gentle windshield wipers, dropping the knees over towards one side. And then allowing them to come through center and drop over towards the opposite side. Notice the pace of your movement. If it's on the quicker side, can you slow it down? I like to think of movement within a yin class like the movement of a sloth. It's one of my favorite things to kind of picture. One, because they're one of my favorite animals. I think they're super cute, but also just it's a gentle reminder to take your time really feeling into your body and into the cobwebs we're kind of wiping away and unlocking through the movement, through the holds. Okay. So we'll return back through center and then just walk your feet in towards each other. Roll onto your left side to press yourself up. We're going to come to one of my least favorite poses in yin. However, it's super beneficial, especially if you have been in a seated position for a while. So if you've been sitting on a plane for a few hours, if you've been sitting in a car for a few hours, and it'll target the fronts of the hips, so the hip flexors, the psoas, but we want to do our best to let the muscles relax so we can get more into the deeper connective tissue. So we're going to come into dragon pose. And dragon pose, I suggest having your blocks at the front of the mat. I like to keep them on the highest setting, but we'll work our way there in just a moment. Your blanket, you will want to support your knees just for that extra cushion. We're just going to start with the right foot forward. So from your high knee position, just step your right foot forward and allow your knee to be somewhat over your ankle or even a bit further behind. So you can let your hands come to the blocks on the outer edges of that front foot. And one thing I like to do is tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, make sure that leg is nice and long, and then lower it down. And from here, we'll begin to just feel the front hip, that left hip flexor, sinking down towards the ground. Now, if the blocks are too low for you, you can also just allow your hands to come up to the front thigh, or your right thigh rather, and get that big stretch across the front of that left hip. Notice the tendency of your shoulders in this space. Are they lifting up? If so, roll them up, back and down. Then feel this slight draw of the belly button towards the spine. Now, one other thing is you don't want to be holding onto the blocks for dear life. I like to kind of just let my fingers lift off of the block so I know that I'm just letting my hands press down. So again, coming to that like grounding sensation of the blocks are connected to the earth and your hands are connected to the blocks. And it's almost like we have this really stable rooting down sensation all the way from the shoulders, through the arms, through the blocks to the earth. In yin yoga, we have those 3 principles. So I mentioned the one principle of just finding your edge, right? You don't want to push past it. So Don't force yourself into a deeper space. Let the time in the pose. So that's the third principle. The second principle is finding stillness. So sometimes we want to move around, wiggle around, look at our fingernails, look at the clock, look around the room, see what else everyone is doing. But zone into you, zone back into your breath. Find this sense of stillness, and within that stillness, then through the time in the pose, we're more than halfway through, by the way, then you find the surrender. The surrender comes within the time. So you might be feeling just a hair of space available to you as you settle in. We're almost there. Allow yourself 3 full breaths in through the nose. Option aside is out through the mouth, letting go of any sensation that's feeling heavy yet ready to leave the body. Then slowly, just begin to step that right knee back. We're going to come to a very brief child's pose, letting the hips sink back towards the heels. Turn the blocks on the lowest setting. Allow your hands to walk forward on the blocks, perhaps the forearms, elbows rest down on it, and letting the chest release towards the earth. Maybe the forehead kisses the earth, or maybe it's just reaching for that kiss. And coming back to that connection to yourself, the building of that inner stability. As we work into releasing layers of tension that may have crept up throughout our travels. And sometimes it's not just physical tension, right? It's not just from sitting in the airplane. It's not just from doing a lot of walking or hiking or whatever you're doing. Sometimes it's more of an emotional energy. So maybe you've been feeling more anxious. Maybe you've been feeling extra tired. Like your energy is empty and on low. This is a really nice way to kind of gift yourself that space to just be, to just feel, and to just sit with yourself and hold space for yourself as you create this sanctuary to come home within to. And take one more full breath in. And one more full breath out. And nice and easy. Begin to round the spine all the way up. Let the blocks come back to that higher setting. We'll step our left foot forward. As you step that left foot forward, just begin to find that edge where your ankle comes just about under the knee, a little more or less. You can tuck the back toes, lengthen the back legs, slowly lower that back knee down. Roll the shoulders up, back, and down. Make sure you're not gripping in your front toes and you're not gripping in your fingers and hands. When you find your edge, then find your way into stillness. Maybe you close the eyes and tune back into that oceanic breath, breathing in and out through the nose. Noticing the ebb and the flow, the rise and the fall of the breath within the body. Doing your best to relax any muscles that are really trying to engage and be the front of this posture. Let the muscles kind of move towards the back, so the surrender can come in. The giving in, the releasing to the sensation can take over. You're almost halfway through. You've got this. We have two different sides, so if you want to explore deeper depth on this side, maybe you did it on the other, or maybe you did on the other and want to stay at a lesser of depth, just explore. Be mindful, move with intention and purpose. Relaxing the jaw, unclenching the teeth, removing the tongue if it's glued to the top of the mouth. You're doing so good. Stick with it. Go ahead and take 3 more full breaths. You can take these as the option to sigh out the exhales, letting any tension continue to roll off and out of the body. And very slowly sending the weight back to let that left knee meet the right, sending the hips towards the heels. And you can bring the blocks to the lower setting if you liked that setting, or maybe you take the blocks to the next setting up for the arms and for the forearms and elbows to rest onto, letting the chest hang towards the ground, the forehead to work towards the direction of the earth. And just bringing in some sensation, some stretch into the shoulders as we let the lower half of the body recalibrate back to a space of center. And take a full breath in and a full breath out. Nice and easy. Begin to make your way back up. We're going to come to a very gentle back bend of Sphinx pose. So Sphinx pose, you might want your bolster if you like a deeper posture. Just keep it set up towards the front of the mat. You can keep your blanket right where it's at if you like that. Just slowly lower onto your belly. And we're going to start in crocodile, where just the palms are stacked and the head rests on the top palm. Now, just for the purpose of me speaking into the microphone, I'm not going to drop my head down, but let your forehead come to the top of the stacked palm. And just lift your left leg, kind of give it a little shake and wiggle, and then lift your right leg, give it a little shake and wiggle. The wider the stance of your legs, the less sensation in the low back. So if you have your legs wide and you're not really feeling much of anything, you can walk your legs in towards each other. Now, if you're already in this space and it's a lot for the low back, then stay here. But we're going to begin to work our way into a true sphinx pose where the forehead is lifted. So we're moving out of crocodile. We're going to come into that sphinx pose where the forearms are parallel with each other. The fingers are pointing towards the front of the room. The elbows are somewhat underneath the shoulders. Now, if that's already a lot for your shoulders, it's too much tension and you're feeling like you're really rounded in, then just walk your fingers a bit forward. You can even explore widening east and west with the arms. And just take your first few moments to find that edge where you start to feel some sensation in the low back. Again, if it's pain, if it's too much, if it's starting to feel like a really sharp sensation, then just come back down to that crocodile position. This is a beautiful posture for our spines because our physical posture within travel tends to not be so focused on, right? We tend to slouch, especially if we're on a plane and we're in, a smaller, tighter seat. We just kind of maneuver our bodies into a way that feels comfortable in the moment, even though it might not be comfortable for our spine to rest in for a long period of time. We do best with what we can and what we've got, right? So this is a really beautiful posture to kind of reset the spine and reverse any rounding and hunching. Just finding this openness across the chest, this lift in the heart. Doing your best to keep the glutes and the legs relaxed and not active. Now, if you're up in this position and you're like, okay, I don't really feel much of anything, you can always take that bolster and bring it underneath the chest to encourage a higher lift. Then the elbows can kind of rest on the bolster, or you can bring them, in front of it if that feels better. Just finding your way mindfully to a space where you can settle in. We've got just over a minute left in this pose, so I'll leave you in the space of silence to connect with your breath. Savor in this pose. Wherever you are, take 5 more breaths. Allow these breaths to be your longest and fullest breaths that you've taken all of class so far. Nice and easy. If you had the bolster to elevate you a little higher, just push the bolster out of the way. Come back down to that crocodile position, this time with the opposite palm on top. Allowing the spine to just return to a neutral position. You can invite the knees to bend, sending the feet up towards the sky, circle out through the ankles, and then just do a very gentle reversed windshield wiper. So just sending the feet to one side, and then through center to the other. And after a few rounds with those windshield wipers, then you can allow the feet to find some very gentle circles, about 3 to 5 in one direction, and then rotating them into the other direction. Allow the feet to come down. Bring the hands underneath the shoulders to press ourselves all the way up through a tabletop position. From the tabletop position, we're going to come to our seat. So you can keep the blanket underneath your seat. You can also make it a little thicker for you to sit higher up on. I'm going to make mine a little thicker. And allow all of your props to be somewhat near reaching distance, allowing yourself to come to that seat. The legs extended out long in front of you. We're going to work our way into shoelace. We're going to break this down into two sides. So we're not going to do it a full shoelace. We're going to start with the right side first, and then we'll move into the left side. So keep your left leg extended. Bend into the right knee, and then send that right foot up and over as far as it'll go, as far away from your left leg as possible. Doing your best to stack that right knee over your left knee while keeping your right seat anchored, so your right hip anchored down. So you don't want that right hip to lift up just to get that leg further. You want that right hip to act as though those roots are so strong and they're pulling down towards the core of the earth to stabilize you into your seat. Roll the shoulders up, back, and down. Really feel into that beautiful posture we just worked on in Sphinx pose. And allow yourself, I like to use my left hand to kind of just hold onto my left ankle, and my right hand to just stack on top of my right knee. Now, I'm not forcing it down by any means, but what's getting the target focus is the outer edge of that right hip and glute while staying lifted. You can also allow your hands to come to the front of that knee. We're just going to be here as we settle in. Keeping the lift in the spine. Keeping a softness across the face. Now, if you feel like this isn't doing it for you and you want to take it to the next level, I'm going to begin to give you a few different options. We did just do that back bend, so we had a really big opening into the front body. So a nice way to balance that out is to just begin to fold over the top leg. And as you fold over the top leg, this is also going to bring the targeted area stretch into that bottom leg, so the back of that bottom leg. It'll also bring in some sensation, some flexion into the spine and the hips. And you can let your palms flip up towards the sky if you feel like your hands want to grip and want to pull you down. It's a really nice option. You can stay here for the time being. It does add a bit more compression. So stick with focusing on the depth of the breath. What's really beautiful is this metaphor of traveling, how nothing is permanent, right? When we travel, it's a lot of impermanent things. We're on the go, we're on the move. And just like yoga, yes, we kind of land in these poses for a few moments, but they're not permanent. We can always back away if it's too much. We can always explore a different variation if this one doesn't settle. So you can stay right here if this is enough for you. Otherwise, if you want to explore a bit more depth into the lower half of the body, ease your way up if you were in that fold. And you can explore coming into a full shoelace by bending that bottom knee and sending the bottom heel towards the right glute, allowing your knees to stay somewhat stacked and allowing that right hip to continue to ground. Now again, if it's too much, if you're experiencing any electrifying sensation or pain, back away. Come back to that extended leg, so a half shoelace. If this is bringing on some tension, some stress, but it's manageable, then be here. We've got 1 more minute in this pose. So choose where to go, settle into the stillness for the remainder of the time in the pose. You can always add in that fold with the full shoelace as an option, but remember, just don't surpass your edge just to get there. There's no destination, but enjoy the journey. Enjoy the subtleties of the deeper sensations. Take 3 more breaths where you're at. We'll slowly make our way out of the pose the same way we came in. So if you bent that bottom leg, just begin to re-extend it. Help your right foot up and over. Let your legs extend out long, just as a little in between each side. We're going to just find a nice tall spine, letting the crown of the head reach up towards the sky, the shoulders relax away from the ears, the feet to be soft and relaxed, the legs to be relaxed, non-engaged of any muscles. To reconnect with the breath, noticing how your 2 sides may feel different, but I promise I won't leave you imbalanced. We'll be gently making our way to the other side and start to bend into that left leg. Help the left foot up and over, trying to reach it as far away from your body as possible. Sometimes you might need to move extra flesh from your calf out of the way just to get the knees to stack as best as they can. And sitting up nice and tall. Letting your extended leg relax. It doesn't need to have a lot of efforts to be flexed or active. Letting that leg relax. We'll be in this pose for a little over 3 minutes. So I want you to allow your eyes to soften shut if that feels comfortable and safe in the body. And then just listen to where your body wants to go. Does it want to stay in this upright position? Does it want to explore adding a fold? Does it want to explore adding that bottom leg to bend, to deepen into the hips? There's no rush. Trust the guidance of the intuition. Being reminded of the beauty of the impermanent. Tapping back into the stability of the earth. That constant connection to your breath. Bring you back home to yourself each and every inhale and exhale. Remembering that a little bit of discomfort, a little bit of tension and stress in the body is good, healthy for our connective tissues. You're doing so good. Got less than a minute to go. Take 3 full breaths wherever you are. Option to sigh out these exhalations. Beginning to slowly blink the eyes open if they were closed. Nice and gently taking your time, coming out of the pose the same way you came in. Letting that left leg grow long, the right leg be long, and then just settle into a tall spine. Beautiful. Caterpillar will be our next pose. I like to have, all the props with me so I can build in my caterpillar pose and then work my way down from there. So the legs will stay extended. You can always sit on that blanket if you're still on it. Great. If you didn't use it for the previous pose, then maybe you want to slide it underneath, but it's not necessary. Just add some height to the hips. And then take your bolster and place it right on top of the legs. And we just allow ourselves to surrender over the props. We're not looking to touch our toes or to get past our toes and to get into the deepest fold. Maybe through the way of the time in the pose we do get there, but that's not the purpose. The purpose is to just let the back body and spine find a space of flexion. So if you're someone who is tighter, generally speaking, in the back body, you can let your props kind of stack up to you, and you can let the blocks support the forehead. And give yourself the space to kind of maneuver around and wiggle and fidget for the first few moments as we settle into the pose. We'll be holding this pose for a total of 4 minutes. So just allow yourself this space to really find your beginning edge. Now, that edge is where you feel a little bit of sensation, a little bit of tension, a little bit of stress, but just enough to be able to settle there for a few moments. Then maybe after, let's say, 5 breaths, then you explore a bit more deeper, taking a prop out of the way, getting creative. There are many ways that you can build up and then also build down. Making sure the toes and the feet and the legs are nice and relaxed. We're just about halfway through, so if you do want to explore and taking some props out of the way, you can. You can always bring your elbows to that bottom prop and support your forehead with the palms like so. And just think of saturating the back body, all four corners of the back body, with the breath. The inhales make space. The exhales, we move into that space. With a little more surrender each and every breath. Wherever you are, take 5 more breaths. And then nice and easy, gently working your way back to a tall spine. So the head can stack over the shoulders can stack over the hips. The spine can recalibrate back to a neutral space. We'll let the bolster just come off to the side and let it come to the right side. Let your blocks just come down towards the bottom edge of the mat. And as the bolster comes towards the right side, we're going to work our way into a twist. We'll do a twist on each side, and then we'll end with one more pose that'll really open up through the heart. So your blanket, you can move towards the back of the mat. Again, if you want that for your head to rest onto. Come down nice and easy. Just maybe start with a mini shavasana. Now we're not closing out quite yet. Just allow the body to land with the feet wide, the hands down by your side or on your body. Coming back to that awareness, how the earth is so grounding and supporting. Maybe noticing where your physical body is in contact with the earth below. We'll bring both of our feet down to the ground, letting the knees reach up towards the sky. Walk your heels into your glutes. Cross your left leg over your right and try and find that nice tight cross, just like we kind of mimicked with that shoelace position. Walk your right heel in towards your glutes. Press into your right foot. Send the hips, lift the hips and send them over towards the left just to make space for your knees to fall over towards the right. And as the knees fall towards the right, that bottom foot, your right foot, can kind of crawl away from your body and let your knees or your top foot land on the bolster. So we're coming into this twisted root. Now, if the legs crossed is just too much, you can uncross them and just stack the left leg on top of the right. But having the legs crossed will get a little deeper into the outer edge of that left glute and into the low back. What's really important is that your left shoulder doesn't lift up. You want to keep it nice and anchored down. Now you can open the arms out wide into a T if that feels like it's calling your name. Optionally, the gaze can go over towards the left. We're just going to get this nice twist through the spine, this rotation of the spine, inviting this sense of rinsing the body, rinsing the mind, rinsing our energy of all of the hustle and the bustle of travel. So I love to think of the analogy of when you're done washing dishes, you wring out your sponge of any extra soap and water. Think of doing that with your body. And so you've been on the go, you've been moving, you've been working, you've been doing, you've been just non-stop. So now as we settle in, we give ourselves the space to kind of just reset, release, and have this moment of detoxification of the mind, the body, and the spirit. Now you can always take the bolster out from underneath the bottom leg, but if it feels good to have that extra support, this is one of the poses that I think it can really be beneficial to help you surrender more into. But listen to your body, listen to its needs. We've got about 8 more breaths on this side. And take a full breath in, and a big sigh out. Beautiful. Begin to allow the knees to come back through center, landing that right foot back down. Lifting the hips just to reset them back through a neutral space and letting that left foot plant down on the ground. Just take that bolster and move it over to the right side, move it over to the left side rather. Before we move right into the other side, I invite you to just take one baby bridge pose. So walking the heels in towards the glutes, pressing into the feet, lifting the hips, and just sending the hips side to side like a little pendulum sway. And then coming back down, lengthening through the tail, nice long spine. Cross the right leg over the left. Find that nice little squeeze of the legs without using a lot of effort. Walk the left heel in towards the glute, press into the foot, lift the hips, and the hips over towards the right. And then allow that knee or the knees to drop over towards the left side. You might need to kind of maneuver the bolster around a little bit. Option to let your arms come out into that T position. Maybe that left hand comes to stack on top of the right thigh. Again, no two sides are the same, so one side might feel like you have a little bit more space to explore into. That's totally fine. Treat each side as a new experience and a new way to observe how the body can surrender, what it needs to let go of, where it needs to let go. And then just be here. Maybe the gaze shifts over towards the right. Really breathing into the right side of the body, into the right lung, the right ribs, letting those intercostal muscles between the ribs just completely surrender. We've got about 8 more breaths. Take a full breath in and a big sigh out. Begin to journey back through center, landing that left foot down, uncrossing the legs, landing the right foot down, pressing into both feet to lift the hips and send a little wiggle into the hip and lower back down. Just let your hands land on your ribs. Walk your feet out wide. Let your knees cave in towards each other for a just gentle constructive rest to rebound out of the pose, just to balance both sides. Find the knees back through center, so about hip width apart. We'll extend the legs long. Roll onto the left side, press yourself up, and we'll set up for our final pose, which we'll also use as our Shavasana pose. And there's many variations to this. We're going to really open across the chest. Now, if you want this to be gentler, I would suggest using your blanket. You can use it If it's folded up like this already, and that's enough, and you want less sensation, then you can keep it folded like that. If you want it just a little bit more sensation, then allow it to long ways. So we call this like a hot dog roll. Long ways, just roll it up. So it's more so like that. And then that'll support right across the upper back. You can also use a bolster if you want it to be a little bit more supportive and cushionier. I'm going to keep mine with the blanket. So just take a moment, find what you want to do, and know that any point through this pose, you can always change it and adjust it to your needs. I'm going to also put the bolster, because I'm not using it for my upper back, I'm going to put it down towards where my knees are going to be, so it'll support the backs of my knees. And get yourself situated. You want to start with the blanket coming right behind your heart space. So as you settle down, you might need to kind of adjust it a little bit more up or down. And you can let your hands open out wide. You can also let the soles of your feet come to touch. Your feet can land on the ground, but you just want to be in a space where that blanket is bringing in this lift in the upper chest. The shoulders are relaxed. The shoulders are not hiked up towards the ears. They're nice and relaxed. You can even bring the hands on the body. It will kind of lessen the sensation of expanding across the chest, but that's always an option too if you don't want the sensation to be as deep. I know it might feel like a lot. Do your best to try to allow the breath to surpass the sensation if it's just on the edge of some tension. Notice the shoulders, and if they can get heavier towards the ground, the more you focus on the breath, washing the body free of any lingering stress or stagnant energy from traveling. If this is just like really hitting the spot, stay here. Otherwise, over the next few breaths, I invite you to explore bringing the prop that's underneath you down just a tiny bit further. There's no rush, so if you want to hang out here for a few more breaths, be my guest. Otherwise, just as gently and as mindfully as possible, begin to scooch that blanket just a tiny bit further down. It's kind of coming to like where the shoulder tips or the bra strap rests. We're just trying to hit different focus areas within the upper back body and the spine. One might bring in more release than the other. Continue to breathe deep. Continue to let go of any tension that might be holding on in the body. these final moments. Got a total of 10 more full breaths. Take a big breath in through the nose. Open the mouth, sigh it out, let it go. We're going to move as slow as possible. We're going to journey towards our right side in a fetal position. So if there's a bolster underneath your legs, just move it over to the side. You can plant your feet on the ground and just kind of roll over towards the right side. And then just scooch that blanket out of the way. Let your bottom arm serve as a really nice support for your head to rest on. And just settle here for about 3 to 5 breaths, letting everything kind of come back to a starting space, a renewal, a refreshing, rebirthing energy. And then as it feels right and organic for the body, use your left hand to press you all the way up to a seated position. Try to keep your eyes closed and maneuver your way to that seated position as best as you can to let your spine stack. The head over the shoulders over the hips. Take any little minor adjustments that you need to feel into this tall space. Maybe a roll of the shoulders up, back, and down. And bring your hands to your heart space, Anjane Mudra. As the palms touch, gently bow the head to the heart. To honor, recognize, and respect the beautiful light within. For this light is always within us, no matter where we are in the world. And the practice of yoga is always there to support us. Even amidst the travel, we can still feel grounded and reconnected with that inner self and that inner stability. And simply by moving in a way that feels good, breathing in a way that connects us within, and honoring that energy of the earth with us at all times. The light within me honors the light within you. Thank you for being in this space today, and thank you for practicing. Namaste. I hope that this class helped you unwind from your travels just a little bit, maybe a lot. Feel free to practice this as many times as you'd like throughout your travels. Add anything, take anything out. It's always your practice ultimately at the end of the day. But I honor the fact that you are here supporting me and practicing alongside me on the healing home journey. I hope that the light within you feels a little bit more vibrant and that you have this inner sanctuary that you can feel extra supported and cared for and tended to. So again, if that is something that resonates with you, then be sure to subscribe to this channel, like this video. Feel free to drop any comments in the section below on any of the experiences that you felt from this class, or any pose, or any of your favorite poses or rituals that you like to do while traveling. Share that in the comments below and turn on the notification button so you don't miss out on any future videos. Thank you, and have a beautiful day and a beautiful trip if you're still traveling. And if you are finally settling home, welcome home.